Hello there, my name is Ngobani Zondo. As South Africa finds itself in a crisis, thought leaders out there are thinking, what must we do and who must do what? And my focus now is on someone that I've never supported on this channel, John Steenhuisen. What the leader of the DA has to do to carry South Africa forward. Because as we can see in this country, the ruling party, the ANC, is lying in bed with Vladimir Putin, the number one enemy of the free world. And the second biggest black political party, the EFF, led by Julius Malema, does not see anything wrong with this. Instead, Julius Malema is doubling down and saying that he is willing, as president of South Africa, to even legally sell arms to Russia to support Russia's war effort in Ukraine. Well, I have made it clear on this channel that Putin's war on Ukraine isn't just about Ukraine. It's a war on the whole free world. If Putin and China win their war on the free world, the human rights as we know them today are all going to cease. And the globe is not going to be run by peacefully and orderly men, but it will be run by Russian oligarchs and the Chinese oppressive CCP leaders who will create this global corrupt network, or this network of corrupt global leaders, severely limiting our human rights. And that is a very scary picture, including severely curtailing religious rights, something that Christians should be worried about. And it's a very bleak future, a scary future. If thought leaders and political leaders cannot recognize that and just diminish the Russian Ukraine invasion is just a disagreement with within the former Soviet states, you are wrong. This war is waged on across the political landscape of the whole world. It's also part of this anti-American rhetoric that is brewing up, this fight against the US dollar hegemony, as we are seeing the BRICS countries coming up with this BRICS bank that is trying to come up with its own currency. It's a way of fighting the United States, as we see with Iran and Saudi Arabia seemingly coming together under the auspices of the Chinese. We are seeing the Chinese trying to create this influence over the Middle East, as the United States is currently getting out of the middle class, out of the Middle East, which is a tragedy. Something that people like Donald Trump support. Donald Trump, a pro-Putin American former president who's also running for 2024, and a candidate whom many believe was had his candidature uh, uh, influenced by Vladimir Putin, and we know of the Russians' involvement in the 2016 American elections. And looking at 2024 and what Putin is doing to the world order right now, uh, we're seeing that a Donald Trump presidency is what Putin and his friends, who are the corrupt group, are salivating. And we're seeing here in South Africa, their war front is in putting ANC in this box, as some of us speculate that the Nazareth 2019 was bought by Russian money to catapult a Ramaphosa and candidate who was not favored within the ANC, who was not even favored within the country, but because of money, he was made president. But now we see the effects of the Russian money through the destruction of ESCOM so that the industries of South Africa can be destroyed. This is an attack on white South African capital. I remember making a video here that was talking when God was sending me to speak to, what's his name, the South African billionaire. His name, yeah, I remember his name, Johan Rupert. If you scroll down, there was a video that I made uh, when God gave me a message to Johan Rupert. And in that video, God said, Mr. Rupert, I'm about to switch off the lights. I made that video about 15 or 16 months ago on this channel, but it was before the ESCOM problem. So when God said, Mr. Rupert, I'm about to turn off the lights, I didn't know what God meant. Now it's clear to me. Now I know what God meant. He meant ESCOM lights. Okay. He meant the lights that light up industry. And Johan Rupert is an embodiment of South African industry. So sometimes when I make a prophecy like to Johan Rupert, it's not just Johan Rupert, the person. It's what he represents. He represents white capital in South Africa. So when God speaks to Johan Rupert, essentially the message is for white South African capital by and large. So when God said, I'm going to switch off the lights, I didn't know what that meant. So now I know what it meant. It meant ESCOM. And now I know that ESCOM problems is because of the Russian influence in the ANC, and it is attacking white capital. Remember when I was making videos when God was angry at white capital in South Africa? What was God angry about? God was angry at their slow pace in implementing policies that will uplift the black masses of South Africa. So now, because of that, the anger of the Lord allowed Vladimir Putin through the ANC to do what it is doing to white industry right now. And if you understand how God operates, God doesn't operate like all of us people. He can act in both sides at the same time. You understand? God can raise an enemy against you. At the same time, God be against the very same enemy that He raised against you. So God and people are different. We and I will take one side. God can take both positions at the same time, and He will be able to clarify His position on why He supports that or why He doesn't support that. So you see now, the we are now seeing the evidence of Russia's influence in South Africa to attack white capital. According to God, He allowed the white capital to be attacked because of their slow pace in implementing policies that uplift the poverty of the South Africans, and they are sponsoring an ANC government that is not willing to enable black people's life to become better. In fact, it's sort of like a scorched earth policy whereby they feel like where white capital has always felt like, okay, so we're no longer in apartheid power with the black government. Let's do all we can to keep these black people in poverty. So God got angry with that. Because of that, He allowed the Russians to come in. So now at the same time, the Lord is angry also at the Russians and the ANC for doing just that, because it does not only affect white industries, it also affect even the very same black poor people who are employed by the very same white industries. It kills the economy. If the economy of white people is destroyed, so is the economy of the black people. It's sort of like it's got this trickle down effect, such that if the rich class is affected, then the poor class as well is severely affected. All thanks to Vladimir Putin and his association with the ANC, and especially the current leadership of Ramaphosa. And it is unfortunate that when the BBC reporter came to South Africa to interview Julius Malema as the second biggest black party, Julius Malema, I don't understand. Either Julius Malema does not understand the global politics as things stand right now. Therefore, he is caught up into this pro-Russian rhetoric that perhaps he makes him think that it's attractive to black voters. Black voters do not understand why they support Putin. By the way, the black voters are lost. They don't understand. They were told through propaganda that Putin is our friend. Putin is not our friend. Putin is our enemy. Putin is here to destroy Africa, not to build Africa. So Malema also falls into that Putin trap. Two things. It's either Malema doesn't understand that Putin is a problem, and therefore he also falls in this trap of black Africans who unwisely support Putin, or Malema knows that, however, he is probably being sponsored by Putin, or he thinks that as Putin and the Chinese are waging this war against America, perhaps he is betting that Putin will win the war, and I am betting that Putin will lose the war. So if you're betting that Putin will win the war and you're Julius Malema, you would think that you will competing for Putin's attention is a good idea. Because right now Putin's attention is on Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa has been put up there by Putin. So now if you're Julius Malema and you want to take over this country, you want to please Putin, thinking that by put if for whatever reason Putin is no longer happy with Ramaphosa, he might put you, Julius Malema, into power. In that, even though you know that Putin is a destroyer of Africa, but anyway, he is a friend of the ruling elite in Africa. So the ruling elite, the black elite in Africa, are happy because of Putin. Putin is their friend. They are right to support Putin because he's their friend, but they are wrong in the fact that, in the sense that their job as political leaders is to build our society, not to destroy it. But the corruption that and money that Putin offers is so attractive, more than their moral duty to country and state. So we see, as I'm saying, Julius Malema is somebody who can see the benefits of the Putin agenda. To him, as a black elite, political elite, he is seeing the destructive nature of that. But then the test now is, Master Malema, do you care more about the livelihoods and the upliftment of black people, which will include uh, removing the Russian influence in South Africa in favor of a pro-Western agenda, or you would rather look aside at the plight of the black people and carry on this propaganda path of pursuing a pro Putin flavored politics that will benefit you individually. It will benefit you financially, and the folks in the AFF, folks in the ANC are going to get richer and richer, but the black majority are going to get poorer and poorer as Putin ups his ante on attacking the 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 the, the white capitalist on South Africa, thereby destroying the economy of South Africa. And in all of this, nobody is concerned about the poor suffering black masses. In fact, the real reason why God allowed Putin to come in South Africa is because the white capital didn't care much about the suffering blacks. That is why some of us were in supportive of the ANC and the EFF in hope that they have got an agenda to carry the black people's lives forward. That is why some of us were not in favor of the DA, because we have seen it as a pro-white capitalistic party that has got little regard for black lives or the improvement of black people's well-being. So you, at the same time, we get to be disappointed by the ANC and the EFF, who are now aligning themselves with Vladimir Putin, whose bitter interest is in destroying the lives of the very same black people that we are actually fighting for or believing for. So now, seeing that Putin is a greater evil than what the DA poses, it now gives an opportunity to the person that I want to talk about in this video, John Steenhuisen, an opportunity to step up and see what is at stake right now and lead the Democratic Alliance in a way that a captain of the ship should lead. He should not be led by the nose by white capital, but instead he must speak truth to power, truth to the white capital, and charge them in coming up with policies that are pro poor, that are pro black, The income inequality in South Africa is glaring in the face of the Democratic Alliance and its sponsors in such a way that it makes it easy for Putin to manipulate the system, to manipulate the economy in such a way that Putin will appear as if he's a savior for black people, but he is not. He's coming to destroy them. So Steenhuisen becomes a very critical and very important figure in South African politics right now, where we are, and I've identified him as the one who can be the real change maker and deal breaker in this situation by steering the DA politics from being too pro capital. You see, now the capital in DA itself has to come to a realization that it's going to be defeated by Vladimir Putin. There's nothing that they can do about it if they carry on in the lane in which they are in. And Steenhuisen now, he has to tell them the facts and tell them that this is what is happening. Putin is gonna destroy you, white capital in South Africa. You cannot you cannot fight him. When you're still like this? You need now to have a political policies that are going to get deeper into the black neighborhoods for the purposes not of destroying black people, but of actually building them, making an alliance with the rural folks, with the folks in the townships to save South Africa. The arrogance of DA politics that is prevalent in Johannesburg, because what we see in Johannesburg is to come to an end. And right now, when the DA has historically been going after black leaders, who are these coconut blacks, white-haired black? There are black people outside, but they, they are more white on the inside. The thought process of the DA in the past has been to think that these black leaders would somehow get support from the black poor class, but they don't, because they don't have a connection with the suffering black people. They don't have. They are the suburban blacks. They're the Mpopalatse kind of people, the Vusi Tembekai kind of people who have been touted by some white people as the black guy that can save the country. I don't see Vusi Tembekai as that guy. I like him as a mentor, in business and stuff like that. But I find him very detached from the realities of the suffering black masses, and I find him more attached to his white elite friends, and therefore, as a political leader, he will be more inclined to think like a white person who's with a black face than actually to like a black person, or to attend to black problems. I don't think that Temple Acquire understand black problems. Though he knows about it, he's a black Zulu man, but he doesn't even speak like a Zulu person. In any case, he's too detached. Not only him, I'm speaking about him because there's a lot of other black South Africans who are like him, who are in that camp, that the DA seems to be so much attracted to, thinking that is the answer to South Africa's problems. I think the answer to South Africa's problems is for DA to now start recruiting political leaders and thinkers from the deep. It's time for Steenhuisen now to wear gumboots and to wear gloves and go to the mud. Go to fight, take this political fight to the might, to Kailicha, to Kukule, to get black children from there, who grew up there, who speak like people who are from there, who speak broken English from there, and be part of that DA. People who don't have degrees, but people who understand the issues. People that are going to take Black South Africans, through a healing process. You see, Black South Africa, the way I view it, you see, I'm a black Zimbabwean. I grew up in Zimbabwe, came to South Africa in my late teens until now in my late 30s. So I understand the life of Zimbabwe, the life of South Africa. So when I deal with black South Africans, I I am sort of like with them, I've stayed with them, but I'm not them. So I can see from the outside view how I can analyze them from the outside instead from the inside. I see a people that have been hurt by apartheid and have not healed from the scourges of apartheid, and they still have this anti-white rhetoric, which makes them not to be able to vote for a DA party or trust white people. Therefore, the healing there must come from the Democratic Alliance. And John Steenhuisen sits at a very pivotal position where he is the guy who is able to lead that should he desire to do so, should he decide to do so. And he can be the savior of South Africa. And first of all, by engaging these black folks I've been talking about, these guys from the DA must start bringing up people from the townships, people who grew up in the township, who probably still stay in the township, not these blacks who went to Harvard, who are so Americanized, who are so out of touch with the issues of the real black people. Look at what they're doing now, what they did. I mean, what the Joburg politicians did with a new mayor in Johannesburg. I like that guy. He comes from the Soweto. He he doesn't. He's a complete difference of Mpho, who is this black outside but white on the inside. Now we've got a real black guy. That guy is. I love that dude. That dude just looks like the guy that we were smoking weed with last week. But it's okay because he's an embodiment of his society, and he represents that cluster. And if you see those kind of people from type that type going to lead the city of Johannesburg, it gives them a purpose of belonging. You know, I like that move. It wasn't done by the DA, it was done by the ANC and the EFF. You know, so that is a bold move. That's a powerful statement to the world to say that, South African youth who are previously underutilized or tipped, previously discarded, are actually being used. And learning from that, the DA must begin to do the same thing. You understand what I'm talking about? The guy is very classy. He, he looks township, yet he is comfortable in his role of running Johannesburg. I mean, that is the biggest economy in the whole of Africa. Oh my God, that is amazing. And I like the way he is so comfortable in that position. I mean, he's my hero. He's my political hero. He's actually right now. He's my favorite politician in the whole world, and I love our Joburg man. Uh, that's what I think. These are the type of people that the DA must be engaging in. People that can relate with the black voters. That young people in black townships, when they see guys like that, and they can relate to them. People who speak their language, not black people who's going to come to speak English that black people don't understand. Use big words that black people don't understand. Perhaps, it has got this arrogance I've seen in the black community, this arrogance of these black people who speak that type of English, who drive these big cars, who live this fancy life. It's like they're looking down upon the suffering people in the township. Say, look at me, I'm a black guy, but I've made it. I'm so rich. I live with white people. I live in white people's suburbs. I'm from Harvard or wherever, so I'm better than all of you. Vote for me. Desire to be like me, because we are just nothing, you're just poor folks. It's the same reason why places in Kailicha like Epagini or the old one, the one that was in Kukuletu, what is it called, in Zoli's place, the places where they are in the township, in poverty-stricken places, but you get these rich black people with very expensive cars. They come there in the sea of poverty to drink expensive alcohol and overpriced meat. Why do they do that? Do you know why they do it? They do it because to them the sheikhs of Kailicha are like it's like the Karoo. It's like going to see animals like in a animal reserves. There is this sense of I have achieved, so let me leave my suburban house. and let me go to the poor area and just watch poverty while he's dining while he's drinking expensive champagne and buying overpriced meat, wearing expensive clothes, while his poor kids are walking around watching me and wishing they were me, but knowing that they will never be me, and I'm gonna feel good about it. That is the kind of black people that we have in South Africa right now, the rich class, the elite black people. And the DA unwittingly seems to be attracted to them and using that class, hoping that it's going to have some political mileage. It won't. We need real classy people, suffering people leading within the DA party, including uh, Steenhuisen getting an election and running mate who is a poor black man who understands the issues. I'm not saying get a guy who doesn't understand the issues. No, there's a lot of intelligent black kids in black people in the township. They are super intelligent, but then the doors have been closed. All sorts of doors have been closed because for some, I do not know the fears within white people's fears that they have to deal with themselves. So a lot of intelligent people, some of them have even fallen into drug abuse, and I do believe take those people, rehabilitate them, use them. Even those who still have the weaknesses, still use them and show that you care. It gives a message that you care. It gives a message to the other people that these are the people who care for us. These are the people who represent us. Let us vote for that DA. Let us vote for John Steenhuisen. He is a white guy who cares about black people. So I'm talking about Steenhuisen becoming more black, becoming more associated with black people, being seen around black people, not the educated black people, but the poor blacks, you know, but who understand the issues, who care about their communities, identify those political leaders, thought leaders, people who have got a natural political instinct for the upliftment of their communities. They might not have the degree, they might not have gone to CPUT or UCT. They might actually have ended in grade 10. They might be speaking broken English, but they care about their communities. They understand what needs to be done. You find those people, there are a lot of them that even in community policing. There's this white guy that what is it? I forgot his name. The guy that fought with Peggy Cele. There's this white guy that was going around in Kukuletu fighting crime. I'm sorry, I've got a problem of forgetting people's names. I forgot his name. He is an amazing dude. Do you understand? A dude whom, if the DA is very clever, Steenhuisen can use him. I don't know, as a running mate as well, or in some shape or form. High level capacity in rallying up the voters for the Democratic Alliance. He is a white guy, a proper white guy, but his record in fighting crime in black communities is something to marvel, and black people love him. And I remember when he fought with Begecele, you would think that in a South Africa that is polarized by race, black people would have supported Begecele because he's black and the white guy because he's a poor. No, he actually got a lot of support from black people, and black people blessing Cele and supporting him. Because so you see that if we take out that veneer of color, black people do actually respect and love what is of value. If something is valuable, it is valuable. It doesn't matter which color it is coming from. To understand. So I'm beginning to see that the DA is failing in utilizing these human resources that are key in driving South Africa forward. And don't be a pussyfoot about it, Mr. Steenhuisen. Don't fear your color and the white guys that you are with. Go in the suburbs. You know what? Apartheid ended long time ago. All right, this is 2023 or going to 2024. Apartheid was abolished in 1994. Why people cannot be too much apologetic now and like, oh, I am white, I'm afraid you black people are gonna take. No, apartheid ended a long time ago. Now we really need to call a spade a spade. If we need a white guy to become a president of South Africa, so be it. So be it. Here's the thing. There is always a first for everything. We need a first white president after, post apartheid. It is okay. It's not too soon. It is not too soon. It is okay. What should be concerned about now is the guy with the issues, the guy who addresses the issues. The biggest problem in South Africa is Russia's interference on the politics of South Africa so that it can destroy the economy of South Africa. And the only party, the only big party that understands that part is the Democratic Alliance. That is why I have shifted my political support from the ANC EFF camp and now in favor of DA, because the DA understands that the biggest issue that we have right now is this Russian sketch. In fact, for me, the biggest problem in the world right now is Russia and China. And the only candidate who is representing a party that supports that understands it in South Africa is John Steenhuisen, who understands that the future of South Africa is safer when South Africa is in line with the United States and European Union, because our trade is much closer and much more connected and tied to that part of the world rather than Ukraine. Rather than Russia. We've got very, very little trade that we do with Russia. And of course, the relationship between the ANC and Russia, the Russian oligarchs, is largely corrupt. It has got nothing to do with communism. Yes, that one of the tripartite uh, 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 parties of the ANC, okay, is South African Communist Party, because that word communist, which is associated with being pro-poor, pro-black, there's Karl Marx, Leninist ideas. They sound Russia's and they are Russia's, but modern day Russia is not the same as the ancient Russia of Stalin. All right, of this centralized system of managing the economy for for the sake of benefiting everybody else. So I accept the SACP's position on their communistic agenda, yet the same countries that claim to be communist, China and Russia, are not the same as before. So what we're dealing with now, right now, in Russia and China, in Russia mostly, is not communism, it's corruption. It's corruption. So that is how I am able to move away from the communist agenda, or parties that keep on using their communist agenda to support Russia. So I'm saying that Russia is departed from the communist agenda. It is now a state that is run by oligarchs. So this Russian oligarchy that they want to spread around the world, still hiding behind the word communism. So we need to be aware of that and be able to separate the two. So in this case, capitalism becomes the victor. And white capital needs now, therefore, to move from its uh, cave where it protects itself and is worried about its interests only. But now, as we can see, now the effect of creating income inequality in South Africa is allowing Putin to walk over the country easily. For white capital to be safe in South Africa, they now need to take measures of actually addressing the ills of income inequality in this country, including the black suffering masses, into the victory of our economy, including engaging with other leaders like Andile Mqetang. I think Andile Mqetang, the guy who started EFF as well, but left EFF to form Black Land First. He is a guy who is very vocal. He is grandstanding in his approach against apartheid and what he calls white monopoly capital. I wish that Steenhuisen could partner with a guy like that. And for both of them, I wish that both of them would get out of their comfort zone. With Steenhuisen getting out of his too pro capital zone, and Andile Mqetanga getting out of his anti white people campaign. I do understand the grandstanding and all that aura that he brings, because it gives him a presence and it makes his point to be heard, which is good. But then when we come to the boardroom to talk, he now needs to calm down and begin to interact and engage with his former oppressor and come up with a deal that will give his former oppressor even a stay in South Africa. You get what I'm talking about? So Andile Mqetanga and the guys in the Black Land First need to understand that at some point they are in their fight. They should not think that they will get everything that they want. They will get some things that they want, not everything. And they will have to give some things to the white folks that they are fighting. You want land? Yes, so white people must make some concessions as well as far as land is concerned. Make some concessions as far as create is changing the dynamics of the economy in such a way that the economy will also bring into play a large number of black people, black participants. Do you understand what I'm talking about? It mustn't be this fight of winner takes all. This fight of winner takes all will lead to white people losing and black people losing. Everybody's going to lose this country. At some point, there need to be a consensus or a compromise that has to be made. And Andile, I do not know his stance on Russia. It would be nice if he understands what I'm saying. If he's also of the same mind that Putin is a problem. But just because Putin is a problem doesn't mean that the communistic ideas are a problem, or fanonism, or fanonist, these guys are fanonists, or Marxism. There's nothing wrong with that, except that Russia today does not apply to what Marx and Karl Marx and Fanon and the other communists were espousing for. Have a great afternoon.